Hello friends. So hope I hope you have liked my first lecture. Today I am coming with the second lecture on the electrostatics. What we are going to discuss here, the first part, that is the method of charging. The second part will study about the gold leaf experiment, and third we will discuss about the charge distribution. These are the three topics that I am covering today. Okay, so what we have studied in the previous chapter, we have studied about charge and its property. Okay, let's start with the conductor and insulator. First we will study about the what is conductor and what is insulator. Okay, so suppose there is a charged body. Okay, there is a charged body, and I am assuming it is a positive charged body. Okay, and there is a neutral body. This is your neutral body. Okay, now what I am doing, I am putting a wire here. Okay, I am putting a wire over here, over this body and this body. I am connecting basically these two body by a wire. Okay, now this wire I am choosing is made of copper. Okay, now what we are seeing, that on this body and on this body again the charge will be distributed. On this neutral body the charge will now present, and this body become a positively charged. Now the same experiment will do. Now I am doing, instead of this copper wire, I am putting a wooden block here. Okay, this is a positive charged body, and now I am putting a wooden block here. What happens on this body? This body is still neutral. What is the difference what you are getting here and here? Here when we are putting a copper wire, both the body are getting charged. While in this case, while we are putting a wooden block, this body doesn't get charged. It is still a neutral body. So what difference did you got? This conducts the electricity. This allows the charges to flow from this body to this body. This wooden block does not allow the charges to flow from this to this. So from here, what we can say, this body conducts the charges, conducts electricity. That's why this copper wire is known as a conductor. Okay. Now this wooden block does not conduct electricity. That's why we will say it is non-conductor. Okay. Now let us understand this behavior of conductor and non-conductor on atomic scale. Okay. What we see in the atomic structure, the nucleus is present at the center of the atom, and electrons are revolved around the nucleus. Now, if you see the valence, what is valence electron? The electron which is present in the outermost cell is known as the valence electron. Okay. Now, in conductor what happens? These valence electrons are free to move in the material. Like, suppose this is a conductor, this is a nucleus, and I am drawing it as a valence electron. Okay, these valence electrons move inside the material. While in this case, in the non-conductor, the valence electron are bounded by the nucleus. These are bounded by the nucleus. These are not a free electron here. So this is known as a free electron. In this case, it is not a free electron. This free electron is also known as a valence electron. This is known as a conduction electron. So what we see in a conductor, in an atom, in a conductor atom, the electrons are free to move inside the material, and that electron we say the free electron or conduction electron. If we are talking about suppose I am talking about the copper. Okay, so suppose I am taking the example of copper. What is the electronic configuration of the copper? We say the argon, Okay. Now is the 4s1 is the outermost. I am writing out the outermost electron. We say the 4s1. Okay. This one electron is basically the free electron. This last electron is basically the free electron. Okay. So these electrons are free to move inside the material. Okay. So in one copper atom, I am saying one free electron. Assume there is a 1 mole of atom. Suppose 1 mole of the copper is there, and we know in 1 mole of the copper how many electrons are there, how many atoms are there. In 1 mole of the copper we know 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 atoms, which we say Avogadro number. Okay, so one atom of the copper constitute one free electron. Then you can imagine 1 mole of the copper will constitute this amount of the free electrons. Now you can imagine even in a 1 mole of the copper, this constitutes the abundance of the electrons, free electrons. While in the case of the non-conductor, there are no free electrons are found. Okay, this free electrons is the cost to the flow of electricity. That's why, since there is a free electrons are found here, that's why the electron flows from this body to this body. In the case of the conductor, what we are seeing, the electrons flows from this copper wire consists a lot of free electrons. While in the case of the wooden block, it doesn't consist any free electrons. So this will not conduct any electricity, while this copper wire will conduct electricity. Now I think I made clear what is the difference between the conductor and insulator. Okay. Now we'll move towards method of charging. Now, method of charging, there are many methods to charge any body. So the one method is by friction or rubbing. The second method is by induction, and third method is by conduction. We will study only these three methods in this chapter. There are also other methods like photoelectric effect, thermionic emissions. These are also methods to produce a charge on the body. But we are not going to discuss these other methods. Only we are going these three methods. Okay. Now we will study first by friction. Method of charging. Okay, by friction. We are studying method of charging by friction. Suppose I am taking, this is a glass rod, and suppose this is a silk. Now I am rubbing the glass rod over the silk. Okay, or what happens from this glass rod, the electron will move to silk. So you can say the electron will emit from this glass rod and will stick to this thing. So there is a transfer of electron, and you know, because of transfer of electron, the charge is developed on the body. So this glass rod will acquire a positive charge, while this silk will acquire a negative charge. So I think it is clear right now, by friction we can produce that we can develop a charge on the body. Okay. Now the second matter, and this, why this glass is positive, why this silk is negative, and not always this silk will be negative and not always this glass will be positive. It depends upon the losing tendency of electrons of glass and silk. Who wins? Whoever wins over the losing tendency of electrons, that will acquire a positive charge. Okay. So this is the method by friction. Now we will study by induction. Okay. What do you mean by induction? Suppose I am taking a positive charge body. Suppose this is a positive charge body. Okay. I am taking a positive charge body near a neutral conductor. This is a neutral conductor. Now you know what is the difference between the conductor and insulator. So I am taking a neutral conductor. And we know in the neutral conductor there are abundance of free electrons. So because of this positive charge, this will try to attract the electron, and that's why electrons will be accumulated in this way, in this side. Since the electrons gets accumulated in this side, so the positive charge will be developed on the other side. Okay, can we say this is a charged body? No, we can't say it is a charged body, because the number of electrons and number of protons, or you can say the number of negative charge and positive charge, is still same. So it is still a neutral body. Now, to make it charged, I have to remove either a negative charge or positive charge. Now, what we can say, if we earth this body, since this electron is bonded to this positive charge by the force of attraction, this positive charge is not bonded charge, so this will basically neutralized. And how this will be neutralized? Basically, the electron will flow from the earth and which neutralize this positive charge. Now the question arises, why this positive charge get neutralizes? Why not negative charge neutralized? To answer this question, I will say, which of the charge is bonded? Okay. Now, if you see, this negative charge is bonded with the positive charge, while this positive charge is not bonded with this positive charge. So, obviously, the which is not bonded charge, they will easily neutralized. So, this positive charge gets neutralized here. So, the whole body, if you remove the earthing, what you will see, now the whole body looks like a negatively charged. So, from a neutral conductor, what we have achieved a negative charged body. Okay, negative charged conductor. Okay, so this way we can produce a negative charge from a neutral conductor. So, this example, we have not touched the body. Are we seeing any touching of the body? No, we are not touching the body. That's what we are doing. We are taking a positive charged body near to a neutral conductor, and what we are achieving as the final things, we are achieving a negatively charged body. Okay, so this is a negatively charged body. Okay, so manic positive charge here, and what we have achieved, a negative charged body. Okay, so this is the way we can produce from a neutral conductor The third way of charging is by conduction. Conduction means simply touching. Conduction means simply touching. So what we have shown earlier, that was the example of conduction. When we are showing what is the difference between the conductor and insulator, we shown the two examples. Okay, that examples was basically by conduction method. Okay, so again I am taking the same example. There is a positive charged body. This is a neutral conductor. Now I am connecting these two bodies by a wire. And now the wire is basically a conductor. And you know what is the difference between conductor and insulator? If it is a conductor, then only the electricity will pass or the charge will flow. Okay, now as a result, what you will find, this body which was neutral earlier, this will also become a positive charge. The same charge it will acquire. Okay, so the same type of a charge it will acquire. Okay, and what is the magnitude of charge that will transfer from this body to this body? We will study these things in the later part of the chapter. Okay, so I hope you understood what is the method of charging. Sorry, non-conductor, not metal. Okay, non-conductor. What I defined, in the conductor, the electrons are free to move. While in the non-conductors, there are no free electrons. The electrons are bonded to the nuclei. So that means, suppose I am taking an example of one atom. So there is an atom. So this is your nucleus, and inside and outside there is a electron cloud. And this is your nucleus. this electron cloud is arranged around the nucleus uniformly. Okay, in the neutral atom, this electron cloud will be arranged around the nucleus uniformly. But what happens when we take a positively charged, okay, and we take a positive charge near to this atom? This positive charge will repel the nucleus and attracts this nucleus cloud. So slowly, so what will happen basically, the electron cloud will basically, this is the electron cloud now and this is your positive charge. So basically what we are saying, this is a negative charge and this is a positive charge. So what if we have to represent this thing, then we can say this is your positive charge and this is your negative charge. The whole negative charge is concentrated in this side, okay, this dome. So we can say it is basically kind of, there is a separation of charges. Here is a positive charge and here is a negative charge, and both the charges are separated by a very small distance. And this we say a dipole. When the two equal and opposite charges are separated by a very small distance, then we say it a dipole. Okay. Now what we saw, if a neutral atom, which is basically non-conductor, comes near to a positive charge, it basically results a dipole. Now, you know, in a material there are a lot of atoms present. So when near a positive charge body a material is placed, this material is placed which is non-conductor, what will happen? All the charges will be aligning like this, because the negative will attract negative charge, it will align like this, that all the dipoles will be aligned like this. Like this, okay? Okay, and this is known as the polarization of the non-metal. Sorry, polarization of the non-conductor. This we say is also known as the polarization of non-conductor. Okay, I hope you understood till this point. Now we are going to study about the gold leaf experiment. This experiment is given in your NCERT's book. Okay, so what is a gold leaf experiment? So basically in this case there is a big glass jar. Okay, over the with glass jar there is a metal which is made of brass basically. It can be made of any metal. At the end of the glass rod, this rod, there are two metal leaves which is made of which can flap. Okay, easily flap. Flap means this thing. Okay, this can easily flap. Okay, so these flap are made of gold. Very thin flap. Okay, so they both are made of the gold. Okay, now over this metal rod there is a metal ball. There is a metal ball, and this is basically sealed. This is basically sealed. So again, if I have to say, level it. So this is your brass. This is your glass jar. Okay, and over this there is a gold flap which can gold leaf. Okay, and just like leaf, that's why it is said to be gold leaf. Okay, which can flap over here. Okay, which can flap basically this way. It can flap. So this is basically the experimental setup. Now, what we do from this experiment, what is the objective of this experiment? We want to detect whether the charge is positive or negative. To detect any charge, there is a different kind of experiment. One of the experiment is basically the gold leaf experiment. Okay, so what happens? Suppose a positive charge body comes near to this metal ball. So obviously from this metal ball the induction will take place. So this metal ball will take the negative charge and this leaf will become a positive charge. Is it or not? So this leaf will fly away. So this leaf now will fly away like this. So earlier the leaf was like this. Now the leaf is fly away because it is a positive charge. So there is a repulsion. So it will fly away like this. Now if there is an unknown charges, now I have to detect it. Suppose I don't know about the charge of this. This is a charged body in which I don't know whether it is the charged body is positive or negative. Now what happens? If the charged body comes into the contact of this metal ball, which is already a negative charge, what will happen? The two things can happen. The first thing, the gold leaf can further expand, okay, further flap, okay. The angle of deviation will further increase, okay, or it can decrease, okay. If the angle of deviation will increase, that means on this gold leaf a further positive charge has been developed. And when the further positive charge will develop, when this charge is a positive charge, then we say the further positive charge will be acquired on this metal leaf, gold leaf basically, and there will be a further angle of deviation, and that's why the leaf will further fly off, okay. If it is a negative charge, then what happens? The magnitude of charge on this and this will decrease, and that's why they will try, the angle of deviation between the leaves will try to decrease, okay. So this way we can do the experiment and we can detect whether the charged body is positive or negatively charged body. Now we are going to study about the charge distribution. You must have read in the center of past chapter there is a mass distribution term, okay. So where we have defined the linear mass density, surface mass density and volumetric mass density. Now in this chapter we are defining the charge distribution. That means the charge distribution can be the linear charge density, surface charge density or the volumetric charge density, okay. So there can be the three types of the charge distribution. One is a linear charge distribution, second is a surface charge distribution, and third one is basically the volumetric charge distribution. Suppose I am taking a very long rod whose diameter is very small, okay. So the distribution of charge, if we will say the charge is distributed along the length of the rod, we can say the charge is distributed along the length of the rod. Suppose it is a very long rod, okay. Compared to its dimensions, this dimension is too much long. So we will say it is a kind of one-dimensional element. What we will say it is a 1D element. Okay. Now this rod is basically a charged rod. Okay. Now I am assuming it is a positive charged rod. So the charge is distributed like this. Now if I to say what is the charge per unit length, so I will say if the charge is uniformly distributed over the whole rod, then we say the charge per unit length is a Q by L. When we can say, right, Q by L, when the distribution of the charge is uniform throughout the rod, then we can write is a Q by L. And this term, the charge per unit length, is termed as lambda. We will say it is the linear charge density. Okay. Suppose the distribution of charge is not uniform, then what we will do, we will take a very differential element, okay, very small element, okay, and we will find what is the charge on this differential element. Suppose the charge on this differential element is dq, okay, and the length of the differential element I am saying is dx. Okay, what we are saying, in this differential element the charge distribution is uniform. So now we can use this formula. So what we can say, the lambda that is equals to dq by dx. Okay, so this is a different way to write linear charge density. Either we can write the q by L or we can write dq by dx. Now take the example, okay, from which we will try to understand the linear charge distribution when we will say the q by L and when we will say dq by dx. Okay, suppose there is a ring. Okay, ring is again a one-dimensional element. Okay, I am taking a ring, and on this ring I am giving it some charge. Okay, and I am assuming the charge is uniformly distributed over the ring. Okay, the radius of the ring is given to you r, and the net charge given on the ring is q. Now let us find out what is the charge distribution, lambda, linear charge density. What we can say, the charge is q divided by length of the ring, that is a 2 pi r. This is the lambda. This example basically shows the linear charge distribution of the linear charge distribution. Okay, where the charge is uniformly distributed. Now I am taking an example of non-uniform charge distribution. Suppose this is a rod. Okay, in which the charge distribution is given like that. The lambda is given to you and it is measured x from this side. Okay, length of the rod is given to you capital L, and lambda is given to you lambda naught into x square. It is asked that, the problem is asked, what is the net charge on this rod? How will you find that? Okay, what is asked, what is the net charge on this rod? Okay, we know that lambda equals to dq by dx. Since lambda is not uniform, the charge distribution is not uniform, so we cannot use that formula q divided by L. Okay, we have to use the formula lambda equals to dq by dx. Okay, now what we did in this derivation, we have taken this differential element and assume that the charge here is uniform. In this differential element, charge is uniform. We have to take this differential element very small so that we can assume that in this differential element charge is uniform. Okay, and I am taking the length of the differential element is dx. Okay, now I have to write dq. We can write is lambda into dx. We know the variation of lambda, that is the lambda naught into x square. We'll put this thing here. It is the lambda naught into x square into dx. Since you have to find the total charge on the body, so we write the q. We have to integrate these things. Integrate, and from the left end where the x equals to 0 to the right end where x equals to L. And after integration, what you will find, the lambda naught into L cube by 3. This is the net charge on this rod. Okay. Now we have understood the linear charge density. Now let's understand the surface charge density. You may have seen the disc kind of things. Okay, a circular disc or a plate kind of things. Okay, in that plate, the dimension here is along the length, along the breadth, and there is no virtually there is in the z direction, in this perpendicular to this board, there is virtually an thickness. Okay, so or we can say the thickness in comparison to the length and breadth is very small. Then in this case the distribution of charge will be basically on the surface of the body. Okay, so here we have to define the surface charge density. What we have to define? Surface charge density. what will say surface charge density? The charge per unit area. What will say? It is charge per unit area. Okay, or if the charge distribution is uniform, then again we'll say the Q divided by A. If the charge distribution is non-uniform, then we can say it is the dQ divided by dA. I'm not taking an example on these things. You can try again the first thing you can try on these things. It is the B and L. What is the surface charge density on these things, on this rectangular plate? Now assume that the variation is charge. Now what is the example? Okay, suppose you can take the example of a circular disc. Okay, here the variation you can take lambda. That is a lambda naught into R square. Okay, now you just find out what is the total charge on this circular disc. Okay, and comment your answer on the comment box. Okay. The third type of the charge density is basically the surface charge density we have studied. The third is the volumetric charge density. We represent it by rho. Okay. So, what is the volumetric charge density? Okay. First, understand where the charge is distributed throughout the volume. Suppose you are taking a ball. Okay, solid ball. Okay, or a spherical ball. Basically. Or you are taking basically example of cylinder, solid cylinder, where the charge is basically distributed uniformly throughout the body. Okay, then we say it is a volumetric charge density. So what we will say, the volumetric charge density again, the charge per unit volume. Okay, this is the Q divided by volume. If the charge is uniform, then we can write like this. If the charge is non-uniform, then we write dQ divided by dV. Okay. Let me summarize this thing. So first we have defined the lambda. That is a linear charge density. We say it is Q divided by L if the charge distribution is uniform. If it is a non-uniform, then we'll say it is dQ divided by dx. Second, we define sigma. It is a charge per unit area, or we'll say the dQ divided by dA. And third, we have defined rho. There is a volumetric charge density. There is a Q divided by volume, or dQ divided by dV. Okay. So this is basically three type of the charge distribution which we know. Can you take the example of these things? Rod, ring. Okay. Thread. These are the examples of these things. Example of surface charge density, plate, circular disc, etc. Or hollow sphere, hollow cylinder. Can you take the example of these things? Solid sphere, solid cylinder. Okay, these are the example of charge. Okay. Now we'll do one problem based on calculation of free electrons. Assume there is a copper wire. Assume a copper wire. Okay. And the weight of the copper wire is given to you. It is a 6.4 gram. Okay. And what is said? Each atom of the copper constitute one free electron. It's important. Each atom of copper constitute one free electron. Okay. Now, what is asked? Calculate number of free electrons present in the copper. Given that atomic weight of copper, that is a 64 gram per mole. It is given in the gram. Okay, it is given in the gram. Now we want to find out the number of moles of the copper. How will you find number of moles of copper? Weight upon molecular weight, and weight we have to keep in the gram since the molecular weight is given in the gram per mole. Okay, that's why I will write 6.4 divided by 64. Okay, itna number of moles you will get, which is basically 1/10 of the mole. And you know, since 1 mole of copper is Avogadro number of electrons, yani 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 atoms. So 1/10th mole of copper will basically 6.022 into 10 to the power 22 atoms. What is given? Each atom contribute 1 free electron. How many atoms are there? 6.022 into 10 to the power 22 atoms are there. So number of free electrons will be 6.022 into 10 to the power 22 into 1. One number of electrons, free electrons. And that you got 6.022 into 10 to the power 22 electrons. That is your answer. Okay.